What is an artist? That is such a huge question, and I've been sent a really big question by Denise Stover, basically asking this, but a whole lot of other stuff. So there's a lot in this video. Stay to the end. There might be something specifically for you. Denise says, I'm a self-taught artist. My art style is realism. Art has always been very stressful for me. I worked as a paramedic and emergency medical dispatcher, and these were less stressful to me than art. This says a lot about you, Denise. Most people doing those kind of jobs go home and do art because it is so much less stressful and it de-stresses them. So this says to me that you are a kind of a person. The whole world is full of different types of people. And I think you're somebody who likes kind of straight lines, and you want to know where you're going and you want to plan it and sort of get, and art is a little bit more free, isn't it? And yeah, if you wanted to know exactly what's going to happen, that could be a bit more stressful with art. Whereas, you know, if you're emergency dispatch or something, there are protocols you follow, bang, 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 and it all kind of happens. You stick to the rules, it works. When it comes to art, there are no rules. Let's carry on here. All of this time I've created art to make money. Fair enough. I've always disliked abstract art, non-representational art, and art that is a lone toilet and pieces like it. I call that ridiculous, and I apologise if you find that offensive. Not at all. To me, those questionable artists did not put the work or the time into it. The original artists who did the original mock-ups for the companies did the work. The questionable artists just sampled the original artist's work. Now that is so true, and yet you have to look at this a completely different way. Imagine you are a farmer and you're really passionate about the environment and stuff, so you want to grow organic vegetables. And that's what you do, and you kind of know the market and you know who's going to buy them, you know what price to charge and that kind of thing. And then you go to a farming convention where there are lots of other farmers, and you meet up and you start talking to some and say, what do you do? And they go, well, I run this pig farm and we have 5,000 pigs in a factory. Yeah, and you go, what? That's not kind of farming to you. And then the next person says, well, I've got sort of 10,000 acres of prairie out there all in under wheat. And you go, what? That's not like what I do. Next person you talk to, they say, oh, we got a little farm, we got a couple of sheep and a dog and a few chickens, and we grow a bit of this and a bit of that. And that's not farming to you either. But it is all farming, and it's all different kind of aspects of it. As a farmer, you don't need to worry yourself about the pig farmers and the wheat farmers and everything. You just concentrate on your thing. It's the same with art. All the attention goes to stuff in museums. And that basically is because over the centuries, this whole edifice has built up of experts, galleries, museums, art historians and everything. And they all have to pay their mortgage. And to be able to do that, they have to stand and go, well, I know all about art. And I say that this is great art. And I say this is worth $4 million. And somebody comes along and pays it. Why do they pay it? Because it's an investment. And the whole thing about that side of art is generally it's not about art. It's about investment. It's investment banking. When you are a billionaire, what do you do with your money? You can't go down to your bank and say, you know, can I have a checking account with 4 billion, please? And they go, there's not a lot left to buy. So you buy stuff that is unique, and you buy art that is unique. And in the old days, that was old masters, that was Rembrandt and whatever. And then new artists came along. And the reason why at the sort of the beginning of the 20th century, you suddenly had impressionists and surrealists and fauvists and dadaists is because of the camera. So in the old days, an artist's job was either to decorate or to do portraits or to do history drawings, basically, illustrations, telling stories. The camera and printing and everything came along and spoiled all that. It sort of cut that whole bit of business away from artists who had to find new things to do. At the same time, there was this great kind of philosophical sort of turmoil going on at the beginning of the 20th century. And It all kind of went into the art department. People started getting very intellectual about art and trying all sorts of things. And some people kind of rose to the top because people go, oh, I like that. I like that. That's nice and bright. That will look good on my wall. I like Impressionists. I like Picasso because they look really good with my furniture. And so they start paying more for it. And then having got something, you suddenly think, oh, this is worth a bit of money. What am I going to do? I don't want people to break in here and steal it. You go and put it in a bank. No, but that's boring. Nobody sees it. So you put it in a museum. The museum goes, oh, marvellous. People are going to pay money to come and see this. So they build up all the security around it. And the person who actually owns it or who's lent it to the museum, because it's in the museum and they've got all the art historians saying, this is marvellous and, you know, come and see, because the value is constantly going up. And it's all about increasing the value of your asset. It's all about investment. This has nothing to do with you, so do not concern yourself with toilets and people who make toilets and call it art. Forget about it. It's not your problem. Now, this is where it gets tricky. Denise says, here's where the problem starts. I was asked a question a few years back. I was not, and still am not, able to answer it. The question was, if you could create anything you want, creating art for yourself, what would you create? Wow. The thing about creating art for yourself is that is it is an indulgence. And it can turn into real self-indulgence. If you're making art for yourself, you're making it difficult for other people to understand probably. You might be lucky and make art that everybody really likes, which would be great. But quite often people go, what? If you're doing that. And that might be one of the reasons you don't want to do art for yourself, because you think it's self-indulgent. If you could create anything you want, creating art for yourself, what would you create? Nothing. I think that is self-indulgent. There is your answer. Fair enough. It gets trickier. Let's move along. If you haven't already, hit the subscribe button and ring the bell so you get notified every time I upload new videos to help you improve your creative skills. For a long time, I've always had a specific vision or dream. I'm in a room that has canvas all around me. I'm in the middle and I've got two large paintbrushes in each hand. One in each hand, and I have large buckets of paint that are thin and runny. I dip the paintbrush into the paint and I go crazy letting the paint go where it wants. It looks and feels so good. Lol. So why don't you do that? I'll tell you why not. Because it says later, you're really worried about waste and self-indulgence. Well, you are allowed a little bit of self-indulgence, you know. And if you've got this thing that you feel you'd really like to do, just try it and see if it is as good as you think it might be. You'll never know if you don't try. Just do it once. If you're worried about it, waste of materials and throwing it in the trash at the end, you have to think of it differently. Imagine that you are a light bulb manufacturer and you've been making tungsten light bulbs for centuries and you know you've got to move over to LED. You don't just switch over and say, I'm going to make LED. It doesn't just happen overnight. You have to do research and development. And along that road of research and development, stuff gets thrown in the trash. Some things work, some things don't. You just have to keep trying and progressing and iterating until finally, yeah, here we are. We've arrived at this new light bulb. We got the machinery. We'll start manufacturing them. When you go to try something new in art, the chances are it's not going to work first time. You're really lucky if it does. So you have to put this down to research and development and a business. All the stuff that doesn't work, they write it off against tax. They just write it off and say, we had to do that to find out, to be able to move on to the next stage. And from that stage, you learn that little bit and you keep iterating as you go along. Think of it like that. It's not self-indulgence, it's research and development. Okay, let's move on. For the last 5 months, I've been drawn to abstract art, not the non-representational or the ridiculous, but the art that looks like things we know and recognise. I know what you mean. It's kind of maybe with a palette, you know, sort of big broad strokes of colour, but you can tell what it is. I know what you mean. I have no idea what art I would do. I just know that whatever I do it on a large scale for me. So do it. I hear artists say, well, I just let it lead me in. I got here and I don't know where I'll end up when I do it tomorrow. I just let it go. How, you ask? How can you just not make plans? This is you. Not worry about using all of your supplies up on trash. This is you. How can you not worry about creating something viable? This is you. It says, and what are you following? There's no plan. This is the whole point. There is no plan for that kind of art. And you don't need to trouble yourself about it. Do your kind of art that requires a plan. Do abstract art and think about it. Don't touch the canvas until you're ready. When you've planned the whole thing out, think, I need to do that, I need to do that. And maybe do little thumbnail sketches, you know, that's not a waste. Until you are ready that you know what you want to do, then you're not going to waste anything. This is obviously something you have got. You don't want to waste materials, you don't want to create trash. That's okay, don't. But at least have a go at doing this new abstract style that you're being drawn to. Why are you drawn to it? Well, you continue by saying, I am 52 years old. You continue by saying, at 52 years old, am I even a real artist? Help! I really hope you can help. Any and all help is greatly appreciated. At 52 years old, I think you can call yourself an artist. I mean, you've done a huge, great apprenticeship with all the things you've told me that you've done. You've done your apprenticeship. You're an artist. And the very fact that you're questioning says that you're an artist. I think what you are is you are conflicted. You are a certain kind of person. You like to plan. You obviously like to just have things straight and not have all this kind of free stuff that's out there. And I know friends of mine are like that. My wife is like that. You know, we're just so different. I like to just go along on a wing and a prayer and see what happens. That terrifies other people, I know. But I can tell you, at the age of 52, it's a fantastic age to be. You have been doing this for a long time, so you've built up a massive amount of skills. At the age of 52, you have this fantastic stamina to keep going as well. And I work on it because it doesn't last forever, I can promise you. And you should have built up some wisdom by now as well. So I think what your conflict is that you have built up these walls around you over the years saying, I do not like this stuff out there, so I'm building a wall up. I don't have anything to do with it. I don't want to do abstract and non-representation, blah, blah. And now you've got all this experience and wisdom and you're going, well, actually, maybe I'm beginning to understand it would be quite interesting to have a go, but you've got these walls up and you may be worried that people think, oh, she's selling out. Oh, don't worry about that. You're allowed to. It's not selling out. It's just moving on. So take a few bricks down off the wall so you can just look over the top. You don't have to smash them all down. You can keep that structure. You can keep that sense of planning, but have a go at doing your abstract ideas thoughtfully with planning and planning ahead, thinking this is that, I'm going to do this layer, then that layer, then this layer, then that. I'm only going to use this amount of paint. And so you're not throwing stuff away at the end. In the end, I think what you're asking for is permission. And you're maybe asking me for permission, which I give you freely and wholeheartedly, just to go ahead and have a go. But remember, we are all different. There are some things in our nature which just will not change. What you need to do is to accept certain parts of your nature are not going to change and work within those boundaries, but at the same time go, well, I've always said this, but you know, maybe things have moved on, maybe times have changed. There was a phrase you used about artists saying, Just let it go. I was answering something else today, and in it I mentioned the concept of faith, and I don't mean religion. I think I have to do a whole video about this. This is faith that you have the skills and you have the knowledge. If you've had an idea in the first place, it means you've got the skills and the knowledge to actually create this thing. And you have to have the faith that once you apply yourself to the job, if you keep going, it will come about. It will manifest as you originally intended. And everything that you need will somehow come to you. Any people you need, videos, resources, new experiences, they will come to you if you go out and look for them and are open to them. And I think it's that openness is probably what you need to do. It's just bring those walls down a little bit so you can you can see the other side, and also that other people can see you to come and help you. You've got the massive stuff going on in that question there, Denise. I hope it's helped some other people too. And if you've got creative problems that my experience might be able to help you with, thanks for watching, and make sure you are subscribed to the Raynor Drawing channel and keep coming back for lots more drawing and advice videos every week. In the meantime, keep drawing, drawing, drawing. Practice, practice, practice. And I'll see you next time. And just let go.